I've met hundreds of people in the startup world, but no one has ever made me freeze in a crowded room like she did. She knew my name before I said a word. That wasn't just strange, it was suspicious. It was a chilly evening in early March, San Francisco. I was the keynote speaker at the biggest tech conference on the West Coast, a place crawling with legacy CEOs, young AI prodigies, and cutthroat investors. Lights, cameras, media, forced handshakes. I hated it all. But that night, I went. For some reason I couldn't explain. Like fate was waiting. I'm Blake Anderson, 35, founder and CEO of Veritas AI, a startup focused on ethical AI. I've been called a romantic idealist in a vulture's nest. Maybe that's fair. I don't manipulate. I build to protect, not to profit. And she, Ava Sinclair, was a walking enigma. Black dress hugging curves, espresso eyes cold as night, but her smile lit up like spring. She introduced herself as an independent ethics consultant in AI, but something told me she was much more. During our first conversation, Ava casually mentioned Project Lyra, something I'd never disclosed publicly. I laughed it off, but alarms were blaring in my head. How did she know? Despite the red flags, I was drawn to her. The way she looked at me, the way she seemed to anticipate my every thought. Every word, every pause, every touch, calculated to perfection. I began to suspect, and yet, I couldn't look away. Over the following weeks, we were inseparable. Ava slipped into my life like a flawless software update. She soothed my stress after brutal investor meetings, knew when to stay silent, when to crack a joke. We traveled, Napa Valley, Seattle, Colorado, and wherever we went, her presence grounded me. I had never loved like this. Or maybe, I had never let anyone this deep into my mind. 3 months in, I proposed. Impulsively, as if my heart made the decision before my brain caught up. She paused for 3 seconds, then cried. Ava, the coldest, most calculated woman I'd ever met, sobbed like a child. She said, "I don't think I deserve this, but I love you." We had a small ceremony in the Redwoods. Just Ethan, my best friend, and a local pastor. Ava had no family in attendance. She said they were in Europe. I didn't question it. I thought she was escaping a past, like I had once done. On our wedding night, while I slept from a blissful exhaustion, Ava slipped out of bed. She pulled a micro USB from her heel, plugged it into my personal laptop, the one with Lyra's original build. A blue light blinked. She typed a short command and sent an encrypted message. Target accessed. Preparing data extraction. That night, I was still fast asleep. She was still the woman I loved. But the moment Ava pressed send, I, the man beside her, became the target. In a windowless room inside Randcom's Seattle compound, encrypted signals from the USB she had inserted into my laptop flashed on a massive LED wall. The people watching weren't investors. They were agents, and Ava, my wife, sat among them. Not as a spouse, but as an asset. I didn't know who Ava was anymore. In their world, she was Valkyrie, one of Randcom's most elite corporate spies, trained since 17 to infiltrate, seduce, and extract. Love was never part of the program, but what Randcom couldn't predict was that she would betray them for me. Every day after our wedding, Ava was expected to report progress on the data extraction. But instead, she began to stall, obfuscate, and encrypt. Randcom noticed. When they started closing in, she had to decide. Fulfill her mission or protect me. She began feeding false reports, injecting noise into every transmission, stripping away key code snippets. When pressed to breach deeper into the Lyra core, she faked access issues. But she knew. One more misstep, one wrong signal, and they wouldn't just reprimand her. They'd eliminate her. Randcom sent another agent, posing as a potential investor, to approach me. A surprise meeting, an irresistible offer. I nearly agreed to let them audit our system. Ava arrived just in time, claiming a security breach to cancel the session. That night, her hands trembled as she poured wine. She knew she'd just played her final card. She sent a final message to Randcom. Unable to access further, target suspicious, recommend fallback to Phase 2. But the truth was, I wasn't suspicious. I still trusted her completely. And she knew, if she left now, the collapse would begin, and I might be dragged down with her. Randcom replied, initiate Phase 2, wipe trace. If needed, wipe target. Ava closed her laptop, pulled out the USB, and stared at the screen. Her fingers touched the photo of our wedding, set as our desktop background. That night, she decided to disappear. Not because of her mission, but because she loved me. When my best friend told me Ava couldn't be trusted, I almost punched him. Looking back, maybe I should have thanked Ethan for seeing what I refused to. 3 weeks after Ava disappeared, I was a ship without coordinates. I still went to work, attended meetings, smiled when needed, but inside I was hollow. Every night, I stayed up replaying old messages, reviewing security footage. Then Ethan, my CTO and college best friend, walked in with a hard drive. "You need to see this," he said. Ethan wasn't one for words, but when he spoke, it mattered. He never trusted easily, especially people who entered my life too perfectly. He once called Ava a little too precise. I brushed it off, thought he was jealous I'd found someone so aligned. But what he showed me shattered that illusion. Inside the hard drive were backup security logs. One entry stood out: 2:13 a.m., our wedding night. A foreign device connected to our core network via LAN. The MAC address didn't match any issued hardware. Worse, it coincided exactly with the moment Ava left our bed. I started digging. Login records, router logs, device traces. Ava had covered her tracks masterfully. Too masterfully. That alone was proof. I'd forgotten about a tiny backup camera I once installed in my home office. My private paranoia project. It had one job: record silently. And it did. It captured Ava plugging in that USB. I dropped to the floor. No screams. No breaking things. Just silence. Like when I lost my mother. Except this time, I lost trust. I had let her into the deepest part of me, and she used it to steal the most valuable thing I'd ever built. The next morning, I issued a company-wide statement. Lyra was undergoing urgent upgrades. In reality, I was locking down root access and rebuilding security from scratch. I hired a global data recovery firm, not to hunt her down in anger, but to understand why. A week later, I received an anonymous envelope. No name, no trace. Inside was an ultrasound, handwritten below. Santa Fe Clinic, 6 weeks. I didn't need a paternity test. I knew that look in her eyes. Ava was pregnant, and it was mine. If she's really pregnant, then I didn't just lose a wife. I lost a child I never got to meet. Santa Fe, a quiet town in New Mexico, nestled between pine forests and Red Rock Hills. I drove 18 hours nonstop from San Francisco to get there. A small suburban clinic was where the ultrasound was taken. Ava once told me, if I ever had to hide, I'd pick somewhere no one would think to look. This was that place. I rented a cheap motel room, changed my appearance, longer beard, messy hair, dusty jacket. I didn't want Ava to know I was here. Not yet. Each day I sat in a cafe across from the clinic, posing as a freelance journalist. 3 days in, I saw her. Ava, gray hoodie, canvas tote covering her belly, eyes sharp as ever, but softened somehow. She was alive. I was just surviving. I wanted to run to her, to hold her, to scream, "Why? Why did you leave?" But I didn't. I just watched. Every day I followed from afar. When she shopped, walked through the park, sat by the lake with her hand on her stomach. She smiled softly, a smile I once thought was only for me. And then, one night, she vanished. I asked the motel owner. She said Ava left in a rush after 2 strange men came asking for her. No forwarding address. I tapped into local traffic cams, using my tech team back home. Eventually, I found it. Ava was forced into a car near a gas station, 4 miles away. Randcom agents. I raced to Santa Fe County, tracking the car's last signal. But Randcom had scrubbed everything. Ava had been taken to one of their detainment sites, the kind meant for internal resolution. Time was running out. If they used neural extraction, she wouldn't survive it. I returned to my motel, opened my laptop, accessed our internal AI system, the one Ava once embedded the Randcom self-destruct code in. She'd sent me a fragment before. Now I had to find the rest. If I could inject the full sequence into Randcom's mainframe, I could crash their system, and maybe save her. I typed a final command. Before I hit enter, I paused, took out the ultrasound photo I'd kept in my wallet. If you can hear me, kid, know your dad is risking everything for your mom. And for you. Then I hit enter. I thought I was the one planning a rescue, but it turns out she had been planning mine all along. I was in an abandoned warehouse, temporary command center. The code I uploaded was crawling into Randcom's system. But before I could access the diagnostics, a letter slid under the door. No return address, no seal. Inside, a USB stick and a handwritten note. Whatever happens, don't forgive me too soon. Survive first. Ava was still a mystery. But now I understood. She was never just a victim or a traitor. She was a double agent inside a double-edged organization. And now, she was standing in the gray zone between two wrongs, to save one right. The USB held the missing code, the final piece needed to destroy Randcom from the outside. I stood between two choices. Proceed with the takedown, which would escalate Ava's exposure, possibly get her executed. Or hold back, and let Randcom survive. She had accepted the price, but could I do something that she might never recover from? I decrypted the file she left. It wasn't just a self-destruct module. It included the entire list of Randcom's embedded spies across major tech firms. This was evidence for the FBI. A weapon big enough to buy freedom, or lethal enough to kill us both. I released the data publicly to the global AI research network, not the government. Randcom wouldn't be able to silence it now. Ava might still be targeted, but if the world knew the truth, she wouldn't vanish as just another ghost criminal. I scheduled the post to go live at 6 a.m. But I didn't leave Seattle. I launched a stealth drone to drop a tracker near Randcom's underground compound, hoping to detect Ava's signal. 1 hour later, the drone pinged. Heartbeat detected. Slow movement. Underground maintenance level. I had no more choices, no more time. She was waiting inside the heart of the beast. And this time, I wasn't coming with a wedding ring. I was coming to bring her back, or burn with her. I thought our first meeting was fate. But no, true fate was the second time I saw her, tied to a steel chair, bruised, and still trying to smile. Randcom's underground tech compound, buried 80 meters below ground, disguised as a data facility. No traditional guards, no doors, only biometric locks and AI facial recognition. But I had something they didn't. A backdoor code Ava embedded in a MIDI file she sent me for my birthday last year. I wasn't Blake the CEO anymore. I was an intruder, a hacker, a desperate lover. Ava, chained, mildly drugged, but lucid enough to recognize me. And Randcom's AI defenses, the very systems we helped design, were now trying to kill us. Time was running out. If I didn't breach the memory room in 20 minutes, the AI would trigger forced extraction, erasing her memories of me and possibly damaging her permanently. She'd live, but not as Ava. I entered through the maintenance tunnel using a stolen biometric ID, jammed their facial AI with a distortion loop. The control room fell into chaos. I breached the lower level. The drone fed me footage. Ava was stalling. She knew I'd come. I broke through the final door. There she was, weak, disheveled, lips cracked, but her eyes, still Ava's. "Why did you come?" she whispered. I didn't answer. I just untied her, held her close, and whispered, "Because if I didn't, I wouldn't be me." We escaped through an emergency tunnel Ava had built into an old blueprint. Randcom's system began to collapse. My posted code had gone viral. Before leaving, Ava pressed a red switch. Erase root system. Flames erupted behind us. Randcom was no more. We reached the car. Ava collapsed onto my shoulder. "I don't think I deserve to be saved," she whispered. I took her hand and said, "Then live, so you can prove yourself wrong." When she woke up, she looked at me like I was a stranger. "Who are you?" Ava asked. My heart shattered, yet I smiled. A private clinic in rural Oregon. After escaping Randcom, Ava and I hid near Mount Hood. She survived, but not whole. Electromagnetic shock from the data center blast caused temporary damage to her temporal lobe, where short-term memory is stored. She didn't remember me, didn't remember what she'd sacrificed, didn't remember who she once loved so deeply. I was now her only allowed caretaker, under the title of legal guardian. Ava, pale, fragile, flinched at every touch. She woke like a child abandoned in a digital world. Ethan had wiped all her federal medical records to protect her from FBI detection. I had to face a brutal truth. If I told her everything, she might fear me, disbelieve, flee. But if I said nothing, was that betrayal too? Every day I stood at a crossroads, step forward or step back. I started from scratch. I taught her how to cook, how to browse the internet, took her out into the crisp morning air. Some days, she laughed, like when I tripped on a stick, and for a moment, I saw the old Ava. But when I told a story we once lived together, she just said, "That sounds like a movie." One snowy night, we walked across a frozen lake, where we once kissed in Colorado. She didn't remember. But as I turned to leave, she suddenly grabbed my hand. I don't know why, but when I'm near you, I feel like I've come home. I said nothing. I just handed her a small device. It contained the last video she ever sent me before disappearing. "When you're ready, watch this." Then I left. For the first time, I gave her space to choose. The next day, my phone rang. Unknown number. Ava's voice, shaky, soft. I remembered something. I once said that if I had a second chance, I'd choose you again. I held my breath. She continued, "So, would you come? So I can say that again out loud, this time?" When she stepped into the courtroom, every camera froze. No one expected the infamous spy to be this small. But I knew Ava was never small. She was just learning to stand tall under her real name. Federal Court, San Francisco. Media lined the gates, the halls, every bench. Ava was summoned for a public hearing. Federal-level corporate espionage, data destruction, and intellectual property breach. I sat in the front row, Ethan beside me. Ava walked in steady, eyes unflinching. She wasn't here to justify. She was here to finish it. Ava, no longer Valkyrie, no longer spy, no longer amnesiac. She was the woman who crawled through every circle of hell to finally speak the truth. I, Blake, was the only witness called. The FBI had all the Randcom data she leaked. They could forgive, they could punish. She accepted both. The prosecutor asked, "Did you knowingly endanger national tech security?" Ava replied, "I used to think loyalty meant obeying. Now I know. It means stopping at the right time." The judge asked her to plead. She looked at me, then turned and said, "Guilty. Not to be forgiven. But so others like me never have to live double lives again." Our lawyer submitted evidence. Ava exposed Randcom's entire espionage network. She took no money, used no leverage, just wanted to end it. The prosecution faltered. The judge hesitated. A closed session was called. Ava was invited to speak one final time. She stood, hands trembling, but her voice clear. "I don't ask for pardon. I ask that one day a child might know their mother did wrong, but dared to start again." I lowered my head. The courtroom fell silent. She wasn't the woman she used to be. She was better, because of what she overcame. The court ruled. 3 years suspended sentence, restricted travel, mandatory support in federal cyber investigations. Case marked with exceptional circumstance. She left the courthouse not in cuffs, but on her feet, through a corridor of bowed heads. 2 years later in Kyoto, Japan, I stood at the gates of Fushimi Inari's shrine, where she'd always wanted to go. Ava arrived, dressed in white kimono, holding a small box. Inside, our old wedding ring. "I once wore this for duty," she said. "Now, I want to wear it for freedom." I knelt down. This time, no secrets, no lies, only love, and a real beginning.